one other piece that we see in the headlines a lot right now also is just, is there an AI bubble?
Yeah.
You flip on the news, any financial network.
AI is already impacting the economy, and whether a new risky bubble could be forming at the same time.
It's time to call the third bubble of our century the AI bubble.
Many now starting to draw comparisons to the dot-com bubble. This bubble 2.0 could be even bigger.
There's a lot to unpack there, and I'm glad you brought it up. A lot of people are trying to connect the dot-com bubble that I know that you still remember quite well at the beginning of your career. And what you saw there was inflated valuations across the board with companies that aren't making money, which isn't necessarily true today. And you keep hearing the refrain from, we're not going to see this big dot-com-like bubble. I think there's another side of the story that we need to take a look at. ChatGPT, XAI, they aren't making money. In fact, this is a vastly money-losing proposition. And the companies that are funding them are well-capitalized when you look at Microsoft and Nvidia, and they're throwing hundreds of billions of dollars at companies like ChatGPT and XAI. So it's masking a lot of things. The companies that we think of as developing AI and large language models, they aren't making money, but they aren't public, so we're ignoring those. But with Microsoft and Nvidia just plowing hundreds of billions in, what does that actually do? So free cash flow is down, so maybe their valuations, if you were to do a discounted cash flow, which probably isn't applicable to those companies anymore, isn't looking so good.
Free cash flow for the Microsofts and Nvidias
Correct.
of the world,
yes.
Right? So they're using that excess cash flow to dump over here into future investment. So now we're going to talk about what's the outcome of that.
And no one knows. So people are getting a little fearful where, yes, you have these very high valuations, which from a fundamental perspective maybe shouldn't hold up, but we know that markets are forward-looking anyway. So you brought up a good point. What's the end result of all this capital spending? And I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. No one really knows.
That's right.
And when you look at what AI is today, it's just mapping the statistical probability of what word comes next. And what I like to say to people is you type into something into ChatGPT, yeah, it knows, but it doesn't quite understand. And in fact, the example that I heard the other day is if you were to ask ChatGPT to develop a cartoon of 1,000 horses jumping over a fence, well, some of those horses are going to look a little funny, right? Because engineers haven't gotten to a layer to kind of cover up the discrepancies in your ask.
Yeah.
And what I think the reason why people are pumping hundreds of billions, if not trillions, into this space, will this, what we currently have now, make this leap into generative AI, with artificial general intelligence, which is supposed to be much more human-like. And I think that's probably a bit more far-fetched.
I remember having a lot of conversations in the 90s with people talking about AOL and Yahoo. Were big ones back then, really popular names. Those stocks were just absolutely taking off, but they had no earnings, not much cash flow. There wasn't much there. There wasn't a lot of substance. It was just this excitement, this exuberance, right? And to your point, the Nvidias of the world, Meta, Microsoft, they are well funded. They have more money than what they know what to do with.
Which is why they're pumping it.
A little bit of a problem,
yes, exactly.
Potentially, right? And so they're throwing it at AI, hoping for a better outcome here in the long run.
It's definitely a bit of an arms race. They definitely think that the risk is not spending enough money on it. Ultimately, I think you're going to have some other technology come out there to make that leap. We'll see what happens. I think the other thing that's really giving people a little bit of a pause is the circular nature of these finances. So you'll read headlines where OpenAI is buying, I don't know how many thousands of chips that aren't cheap from Nvidia, but then when you look at how much revenue OpenAI is bringing in, it's only $13 billion. So then Nvidia is pumping $100 billion into OpenAI as an investment. So it kind of becomes, where is this cash flow going, and is it actually revenue? And then some rumors of chips being leased back. That just has a lot of people not quite understanding where all the money is going.
And when you start drawing out where the money's going, a lot of it's kind of going in a circle. It's going from one company to another. It's just being circulated around.
And essentially what we're coming to is, outside of a couple of companies, the only way this AI race is going to keep going is through fundraising. We just hope that the spigot stays open open, and people keep throwing billions at this. But as you and I well know, spigots don't stay open forever. So if that spigot gets closed, that means there's less funding going to OpenAI. Maybe Nvidia can't raise as much. I don't know. Weird example there. But the point is if money gets shut off, that means that maybe these companies that have powered this rally are going to falter a little bit. And because they have so much concentration in all of the major indices, if those companies fall, the entire index is going to fall too.